Hey there everyone and welcome to some more Tower Heroes level guides. In this video we're going to go through Gold 3 until 6. So 6 is the most that we've got in the game right now. I actually recorded these clips back in November 2021, which at this point is like 8 months ago. But I finally got around to making the video. These levels, there's nothing particularly unique about them. But they are very, very important to do because gold is just like the thing we need most in the game. So you end up farming like the highest gold level you can do as a lot. And being able to do those later levels is very important because you get gold at a more efficient rate. So these are actually probably the most important clips to show in a video, which is a bit of a shame that I've taken so long to get around to it. But anyway, looking at this first one, I believe I did Gold 3 and Gold 4 with lower level heroes. It's Gold 5 and Gold 6 that I think they get quite a bit tougher. And it's you do need, mainly it's Roland, because they are fire enemies. But anyway, we'll get to that later on. So Gold 3, this is one that stumped me for a little bit when I first ever played the game. And the reason was I just couldn't quite line things up. I didn't utilise silver particularly well. And what I was waiting for was when they brought out Sagus, I was like, Sagus is just, it's going to make this happen. So I was able to do it once I got Sagus. However, a lot of people were able to do it before Sagus even existed, and that made me come up with this technique. So this really hinges on Silver and Remus. They're the two kind of most important heroes for doing this. If you've got other nature heroes that are stronger, or if you have Sagus, Sagus just makes this really easy. But you can do this without some of that stronger stuff. So I'm not really going to show the positions here. We have this on screen for a little bit. Let's just get into the battle itself. You'll see that everything is Evo 1. We're only using 2 to 4 star heroes here. I'm actually not going to use some of those nature heroes because I want to show that it's easy enough to do without them. So you start off with Silver on the bottom here facing up. She's going to basically chip down some enemies because Remus cannot block more than one at a time. So she's going to bring down the number of enemies so it's just like one of them for him to block, or otherwise they're kind of hurt so it's easy for him to kill off. And then you can put Edwin at the top there, facing downwards, so he's going to cover both of those rows. So these three heroes do a pretty nice job of taking down a lot of these enemies, and then you can use Azri at the bottom. She's going to cover now 3 of those rows, and she's going to block these enemies at the bottom because you'll see there were 4 melee enemies that came in there, and Remus can't deal with all of those. So with those there, we've now basically got the level covered. I put Canos up on the top left. So he's going to chip away at those enemies that come in. He's going to help out Silver with the flying enemies. And yeah, these guys are going to cover it. I put in 1 extra melee hero for good measure. You don't need any healers here. But these 2 crossbow guys that have come in, they are very strong. So I use Silver's skill to try and kill it off. And Edwin's skill, as soon as it comes within range, you can see Edwin almost died. But you can just about do it if you save the skills for taking out those crossbow guys. So that's this level. I hope people can do it right when they start the game. It's very important that you're able to do this level so you can get gold efficiently. Next we have Gold 4. Now you'll see on this I'm still not using any high level heroes. I'm not using any 5 stars or 6 stars. We are using a few more water heroes, but basically this is fine to do in whatever, with whatever characters you have. This should be very doable. It's all down to technique, and you'll see that the way I've got this set up is at the bottom I've got a healer who's going to heal all those melee heroes, and each of the melee heroes on either side is a melee attacker facing a defender. So the melee attacker is going to cover both of those rows, while the defender, just really covers that one row nicely. And then we've got Silver at the top. She's kind of your main range attacker damage dealer at the beginning, and being water, she's going to be very good against these fire enemies. So she's in the middle, so she can cover both sides of the melee enemies coming in. I believe it's just melee enemies that you face in this. So that's kind of the core setup, and then we've got a couple more range attackers in there for good measure. The technique of what order you place them in is the important bit. So again, we're using all Evo 1 heroes, just because I didn't want to use anything too strong, and to show that this is very doable with the weaker heroes. So we start off with Victoria there on the left, facing upwards. She is going to take down these first enemies coming in. She's very good for doing this. You can see I'm 3-shotting them, which is not ideal. You could put a higher level and she'll 2-shot. But she's going to be the main core CP generator at the beginning here, so we can get the other heroes down faster. So to cover the right-hand side, we've got Edwin and Felwyn. Edwin facing Felwyn, as I mentioned. So he's going to attack both of those sides. And then we've got to get a healer because Victoria nearly dies at this point. But you'll notice there's nothing coming in on the top left yet. So you don't actually have to cover that until this kind of point, which by this point, with Victoria helping, with giving some more CP, it was possible to save up for a defender while still putting that healer down in the middle of that. So now we've got the core setup. All the different rows are covered very nicely. Both of those melee attackers as well block 2 enemies, so they're able to cover their row properly. And yeah, this is kind of how it goes. So yeah, this level I think is very doable without needing high level heroes. The next 2 are a bit tougher, and I do start using heroes. Predominantly Roland. You probably heard me mention in other videos that Roland kind of carried me a lot, and Roland is just exceptional for Gold 5 and Gold 6. So yeah, he's very useful there. If you don't have him, it may be a bit of a struggle doing these next 2 levels. But anyway, that was Gold 4. Let's have a look at Gold 5. Taking a look at the map of Gold 5, you'll see this is very similar to Gold 4. In fact, Gold 5 and Gold 6 are almost identical, and they just are the same map as Gold 4, but with some flying enemies too. So the setup is slightly different to what we had before. It is the same, still the same idea of there are 2 rows on each of the sides which you need to cover with melee heroes. I've got a setup, if you look at the left-hand side, it's Victoria and Edwin looking at each other. So they are both covering both of the rows. This is just a nice little kind of strategy thing to cover 2 rows very nicely. Rather than putting like them both facing left in this case, it's much better if they face each other so they cover each other. It does mean they're going to get hit more because they'll only attack enemies that are actually on top of them attacking them already, but you can cover that with a healer. So that's why I've got the healer on them there. The other side is where I've put Roland. It doesn't have to be Bruno, the 6-star defender, but Roland is basically the hero covering that side. If you don't have Roland, you'll need to put probably 2 heroes down there. You may also need a healer as well, and that's where it gets a bit awkward because, you know, how are you going to afford all that? But that's kind of got to be, you look at your collection and you figure out what you can do. The other important thing is Silver and Canos at the top and the bottom that are facing off to the sides. They're in this position to cover the the flying enemies which are going to be coming in. The position of Arctis doesn't need to be there, just ignore that. But anyway, let's see how it is. So I'm using mostly low level heroes. Roland is leveled up a reasonable amount, just because that's the level I had him when I recorded this. So we start off in a very similar way, putting Victoria down on the left-hand side, facing upwards. She's going to get chipped away at quite a bit faster than before because the enemies are tougher. I then put Roland down on the right-hand side, and you know, this is where it would be similar to the technique we used for the last level, where you basically got to cover the left at the bottom, and you've got to cover the right-hand side. But I need a healer at this point, which means I wouldn't have been able to put down 2 heroes on the right-hand side. You've got to basically figure it out your own way. But Roland's going to cover the right-hand side beautifully. At second ascension, it is that he gets the larger range, so he can cover both of those rows. So he's covering that side completely. And on the left-hand side, I can put down a second melee attacker now, because that top left row is being attacked. You've also now got to put down both of the range attackers. I like this middle position facing off to the side. You can choose a slightly different position if you'd like. That's just what I went with for this. So now we've got the core set up, and then I just put down a couple of extra heroes that aren't really needed. Bruno could be anything really. We've got the core set up that are going to take down the enemies who just needed to block that bottom row if Roland, doesn't cover it completely. So the flying enemies are actually really easy to take out. It's just that you need to cover both sides that makes it a bit awkward. So now we have the last wave, which is these big guys. They are quite tough, so I saved all the skills for them. So we're going to cinematically move around. Roland just wrecked them. But anyway, that's the end of this level really. You've got to have the setup for that point, but you will, so that's not too bad. So if you manage to have the setup to do Gold 5, you probably have the setup to do Gold 6 as well. Because it's a very similar battle, it's just that the enemies are slightly tougher. You also get these gargoyles, if you can see on screen right now, at the top and the bottom. These gargoyles come along, they're a little bit annoying, a little bit tougher. But ultimately it's pretty much the same battle. So the way we're going to do it is going to be slightly different, because I believe that the enemies come in a slightly different order and things. It's a little tight at the beginning because you need to put down 2 range attackers for the flying enemies that come in, and trying to afford that is quite difficult, as well as being able to then follow up with other things. But you'll see the technique I do. The reason why I'm not rushing into it right away is because this is not the best technique that I did for it. Like I said, I recorded this back in November last year, 8 months ago from when I'm now doing commentary on it, and my heroes are a lot stronger now and I have a different technique for this. But because my heroes are a lot stronger, I don't want to show me just obliterating it. I want to show you kind of what I managed to do when this map first ever came out, and you can hopefully use that as a point to learn from and then build your own technique for. I got very lucky with crits and stuff like that for doing this. It wasn't a smooth run. But anyway, all that aside, let's get into the actual clip itself. So you'll see the level of my heroes right now. I believe, yeah, they're all Evo 1 and stuff, other than Roland, who's higher level. This was done right after I did Gold 5, so it's the same kind of levels on my heroes. So I start off with Silver facing down. Now this is not facing to the outside because I want Silver to also cover the rows with the melee enemies coming in, and then I do the same thing with Canos on the right hand side where he's facing upwards, so he's also covering where the melee enemies are going to come. As you can see, there's quite a few of these flying enemies coming in. They're not too much trouble though. It's just a case of you need 2 heroes down there to cover both the top and the bottom. And then I use Silver's skill to kill that first enemy. The second enemy, though, is not going to die unless you get really lucky with crits, like I just did. So yeah, you need to do a slightly better technique than I did for what you're placing next. Canos also just killed that enemy on the right-hand side. I don't think it happened reliably. In fact, it did it on 2 enemies. Yeah, anyway. So then you've got the big guys coming in. So I used Roland and Bruno for them. Basically, you need to have some kind of melee setup. The reason why I didn't put Victoria facing downwards, because you could do the 2 melee attackers facing each other. That would be very nice on the right hand side, but the reason why I didn't do it is because I planned to put Bruno there. Also, I needed Victoria to try and survive better, because as you can see, she just died. Yeah, this, like I said, not ideal. You probably want to level up your heroes a bit more and do a slightly different technique, but from watching this video, hopefully you can see the kind of thing you're trying to do, where you can then set up these melee heroes on either side. You can put healers for them if you need that, and have the 2 range attackers. You only need those 2 to cover from all the flying enemies that come through, because they're really not too tricky to kill. So now we get to the final wave. Basically it's a bunch of enemies followed up by the big guys. Yeah, you'll have your setup by this point. Save the skills for this point to then use on these big enemies. We're going to move around cinematically between all the different skill uses as I try to take these enemies down, and that will be the end of the battle. So I hope this video helped you do the gold battles. If you can do gold 6, that's excellent, because you're going to get gold a lot faster. Thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in another video soon.